listening to the Full Court Press with your host, Drew Duncan. Don't you dare touch that dial. Want to know something? Michigan has played 7 games of basketball in 22 days. 7. Hell of a run. I mean, you got to give credit to the kids, right? But it reminded me of something, though, that gained a lot of traction and now has lost a lot of traction. And it's a conversation that I continue to be on, and it's one that I'm going to continue to push. I'm not going to get over it. I'm not going to get away from it. And I'm really upset because I don't know why we're not talking about this anymore, but it's whether or not college athletes should get paid to play. And I just don't understand why we can't get people to agree on this. I know that it's really easy to point to an Alabama University or Michigan or somewhere like that that draws in a lot of revenue, particularly in football and basketball. But when I think about a team like a South Carolina that, even though they're in the SEC, doesn't win a lot of games per se and doesn't really do very well and isn't really a national contender every year, and you know that they rake in over $100 million a year. Hell, last I looked, even the basketball team for South Carolina, women's basketball is bringing in roughly $1 million a year. And you're talking, plus $30 million in donations. You know, then you've got football revenue, which if I remember right, was somewhere in the neighborhood of $58 million. And you're going to tell me that we can't figure out a way to pay these kids? Look, I know all the debates. How can you compare the quarterback of a Florida State to the volleyball team or the lacrosse team or the track team? How do you do that? You just can't compare. Well, you may not be able to compare one position to another, but I think it's pretty easy to say that the quarterback should probably get paid more than the lineman does. Works that way in the NFL, and it works that way in life. College is supposed to be teaching life lessons anyways, isn't it? So there you go. Not only have you learned money management skills now, because in the NFL, they only get paid during the regular season. That's it. When the season's over, the paychecks stop coming in. So to me, that's what you do in college basketball or college sports. During your season, you get paid. When the season's over, you don't. Pretty simple. Acceptance of your spot. Look, dude, you're an offensive lineman. There's no offensive lineman in the NFL that makes as much money as Tom Brady. There's no offensive lineman in the NFL that's going to come close to making Tom Brady money. So you might as well get that out of your head right now. Life lesson. You want to be top dog in life? You want to be a manager? You want to dictate your own money? Take business classes. Figure out a way to get advanced at your job. It's a life lesson. It's what we're supposed to be learning in college. And I get tired of this whole thing about, well, he could get a job. No, he can't get a job. These kids sign contracts, and they only do it in 3 sports, if I remember correctly, by the way, football, basketball, and baseball, that you're not allowed to work. As a matter of fact, I've met people that that ran track at Alabama, and they said it was the same for them. So maybe it's not just the 3 primary sports. And even then, if they could work, when would they find time? You've got to take a minimum of 12 credit hours. They've raised the bar for the standard that you're supposed to be at now for being eligible to play, which I think is good, by the way. 2-a-day practices, which they cut down to 1 finally. But even then, you got practice, you got gym, you got your 12 credit hours, you've got homework you got to turn in, then you're on the road. I mean, come on, think about it. Michigan playing 7 games in 22 days. Do you think the university really, truly gave a damn whether or not those kids were succeeding in class? Think about that for a minute. Or is it all about how they played against Michigan State? You know, the point that I'm making here is that I think it's obvious that we're at a different position than we were 50 years ago. We're talking TV money. We're talking third-party money. We're talking $1 billion industry in the NCAA ranks, especially in college football. And you're going to tell me we can't figure out a way to get grant money or some sort of money that these kids can get. And a lot of people will allude to the $5,000 stipend. Well, primarily that $5,000 stipend is to be used for flights to and from home. How many bowl games are there right now in college football Division I alone? 30, 39, whatever the hell it is. Let's just say it's 30 bowl games. That means 60 teams are going to play in bowls come December of this year. That's when everybody's on vacation, except for the athletes who have to stay back and practice and play, or travel and play. What about college basketball? College basketball is going on during that time frame. What about wrestling? See, they're not allowed to go home when you or I would go home because they've got to stay back and do sports. Well, they knew what they were getting themselves into. Do you know what an indentured servant is? An indentured servant is somebody who gets free room and board and food, and that's it. They're not paid for the actual work that they do. They're basically being told, hey, look, man, we're giving you this. Come on, I gave you a dorm room to live in. I made sure you get fed. What's your problem? An athlete has to eat 3 times the amount of what anybody else should consume because they're constantly working their bodies. Don't give me this that, athletes have it so great. The pressure of an athlete alone. When Arian Foster was at Tennessee, do you think he walked around the University of Tennessee as an unknown guy? Or do you think everybody knew who he was, stopping him on his way to class, giving him a 5, wanting to talk about the team? How many interviews did Arian Foster do on national television? Do you think anybody really cared about whether or not Arian Foster went to class? Or do you think that they were more concerned with Arian Foster getting 120 yards in a big-time game and getting them to the bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Sugar Bowl? What do you think was their primary concern? Come on. I mean, let's just be realistic. How many times has North Carolina been busted for allegedly doing paper classes? Is this the 3rd time now? What about all the allegations that have been going on with all this money stuff that's been happening? Started right around August, September is when the reports first came out, just this past start of the football season, basically. Money thing, what was it, 13 teams, somewhere in that neighborhood, 10 teams, 13 coaches were named in these allegations and investigations by the NCAA and this whole money scandal. Some of this stuff would be minimized to me because you'll never stop it. You'll never stop boosters. You'll never stop like what allegedly happened with Maurice Clarett. You'll never stop any of that, okay, with anything. There's no 100% guarantee that you'll stop something, but you can hope to prevent it. You can hope to minimize it. You can hope to contain it and control it. It's just like the Patriots. You know how many teams have been busted for Spygate? It's just that the Patriots were out in public with it because they were Super Bowl champs. But there were a lot of other teams that got busted for being spies. It's just the Patriots were actually good at it. Think about the USC Trojans and Reggie Bush and all that kind of stuff that happened. Reggie's mom allegedly getting a house and a car and a lawn and a job and all this other stuff. Look at the University of Oklahoma. Think about SMU, right? Did you see the 30 for 30 on that on ESPN where people were saying that some of these guys were taking pay cuts by going to the NFL? What does that tell you? We can minimize some of this stuff, though, because kids might make better decisions if they have just a little bit of incentive. You know what, man? I've got my 10 grand coming to me, dude. I don't really need your money. I'm just going to have to turn you away and say no, bro. And I get it. Not every kid that goes to school or plays in athletics comes from an inner city situation. Not every one of them, grew up with the inability that if it wasn't for their athletic prowess, they wouldn't be able to go to school at all. But I think that whether or not somebody has the financial capability, that doesn't really make sense to me. That's an invalid argument. And I think the thing that really bothers me is that, when kids get hurt, scholarships could get pulled. And people go, well, that's not a coaching decision. That's on the university. It doesn't matter who it's on, which, by the way, it is a coaching decision. It's a business choice. And so if you're going to treat somebody, an 18-year-old, like they are a business decision, because that's what they are at this point, are business decisions, then maybe you should pay them like they're business decisions. Come on, guys. Kendrick Lamar just performed at the college football playoff championship game? How are they not treated like superstars? How are they not treated like paid athletes? Well, if we do this, next thing you know, we're going to be talking about paying Pee-wee kids. You ever been to football in Texas? Some of them Pee-wee kids might need to get paid, the kind of pressure that's on them. Jeez. And of course, I'm not insinuating that on a serious note. But the bottom line here is simply this, that when you start thinking about whether or not these kids should get paid, and you start thinking about the work that they put in, the time that they put in, their inability to be able to find an income outside of sports, and even if they could, they wouldn't have an opportunity to because they would be so busy doing everything else that it would be egregious to ask them to do something like that. Like, oh, we need you to go to football practice, film study, do your homework, go to all your classes. Oh, and then when you find time, go ahead and find you a little job at Burger King or McDonald's or something. Get a little something for yourself. There you go, youngin'. That'll work out. Yeah, I don't understand that mentality. I don't see how people can say that this education that they're getting is priceless when it's not. It comes with a price. They put in a lot of man hours and time and work and effort. I just don't understand why we think it's so bad for them to get paid. I mean, if you can give me some legitimate arguments, I'm willing to listen to them. Hell, I'll even throw them in a video. I'll even say, look, man, dude right here made a valid point. But until you can give me a valid point, I don't mind people disagreeing with me. I don't mind it at all. And there's some people that won't agree with it no matter what. You know, they'll just say, well, dude, the numbers and all that kind of stuff doesn't really bother me. In my day it was this and in my day I was that. And look, I get that mentality, but we're living in a different time. And no, I don't think everybody should get a trophy, but I do think that based off of the work that you put in, you should get something for that. And every one of these kids works their asses off for your and I's entertainment. And I don't understand why Coca-Cola and all these other sponsors are coming in and paying the universities, and you're getting third-party money. And then, of course, you're selling merchandise on top of that. I mean, come on, that's what the O'Bannon case was about, right? UCLA basketball star who sued EA Sports and said, dude, you're using my likeness, and I'm not getting a dime for it. The NFL wouldn't tolerate it. Why should the college ranks tolerate it? And I side with it. This is the Full Court Press. I am Drew Duncan. Don't you dare touch that dial.